I still remember the first time I saw Claire. It was a chilly afternoon in the college library cafe, the kind where the windows fogged up from the heat inside and the rain tapping outside. I was hunched over a stack of books, pretending to study, when she walked in, her hair a wild mess of curls, her laugh cutting through the quiet like it didn't care who heard. She plopped down at a table nearby, spilling her coffee as she tried to juggle a pile of novels and her phone. I don't know why, but I got up to help her, handing her a napkin and mumbling something about the weather. She grinned at me, bright and unguarded, and said, "You're my hero now. You know that?" That was it. That's how it started. We kept running into each other after that. The cafe became our spot, hours spent arguing about books, sipping burnt coffee, and trading stories. She loved mysteries, the kind with twists you never saw coming, while I stuck to history, dry facts I could hold on to. She teased me about it, calling me professor in this playful tone that made my chest feel warm. I liked how she made everything feel alive, how she'd lean across the table, eyes sparkling, and pull me into her world. I wasn't used to that. Growing up, I'd been quiet, steady. Leo, my best friend since we were kids, always said I was the guy who held things together. But Claire? She was a storm, and I wanted to be caught in it. Weeks turned into months, and those talks turned into something deeper. We'd walk across campus at night, her arm brushing mine, the air crisp with fallen leaves. I told her things I'd never told anyone, how my dad left when I was 10, how I'd spent years trying to be enough for my mom. She listened, really listened, and then she'd share her own stuff, how her mom, Lorraine, was always pushing her to be perfect, how she felt like she was running from something she couldn't name. It felt like we were building something, you know? Something real. I met her roommate, Hannah, this sharp-tongued girl who'd roll her eyes at me but still slip me a beer at parties. She'd say, "Claire's a handful, good luck, buddy," and I'd laugh because I didn't mind. One night, under an autumn sky, so clear you could see every star, I asked her to marry me. We were sitting on a bench near the library, the same place we'd met, and I'd been carrying the ring in my pocket for weeks, too nervous to pull it out. My hands were shaking, my voice barely steady, but I got the words out, "Claire, I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me?" She looked at me, her eyes wide, and for a second I thought she'd say no. Then she laughed, this soft, happy sound, and threw her arms around me. "Yes," she said, "yes, you idiot. Of course I will." I slipped the ring on her finger, a simple band I'd saved up for, and it felt like the world clicked into place. The wedding was small but perfect. Leo stood by my side, cracking jokes about how I'd finally found someone crazier than him. Hannah gave a toast, half roasting Claire, half warning me to keep up with her. Claire looked beautiful, her dress simple, her smile lighting up the room. We danced under string lights in her mom's backyard, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is forever. I believed it too. Every word of our vows, every promise we made, I meant it. I thought she did too. Back then, I didn't see the cracks, didn't notice how Lorraine's whispers about me being too soft made Claire's smile falter. I didn't think about how Hannah's warnings might have been more than jokes. I just saw her, my wife, my storm, and I was happy to be swept away. Looking back, those early days were the best we had. The quiet corners of our life, the library, the walks, the way she'd curl up next to me on the couch, felt like a foundation I could build on. I didn't know then that foundations can shift, that storms don't always settle. I didn't know that the woman I loved, the one who laughed so easily, could one day turn that laughter into something sharp, something that cut deeper than I'd ever imagined. But that's later. For now, in those first years, it was just us. Me, Claire, and the life I thought we'd share forever. I was happy. I was hers. And I thought that was enough. Micah came into our lives like a quiet miracle. It was a Tuesday morning, the air thick with summer heat, when Claire grabbed my hand and said, "It's time." We rushed to the hospital, my heart pounding so hard I could barely think straight. I held her hand through every contraction, whispering dumb things like, "You've got this," and "I'm right here," even though I felt useless. Then, after hours of waiting and worrying, there he was, our son. The nurse handed him to me, this tiny bundle with a scrunched-up face and the softest wisps of hair. I looked into his eyes, dark like Claire's, and something in me shifted. I was a dad. I'd never been so scared or so happy in my life. Those first weeks were a blur. Micah didn't sleep much, and neither did I. I'd stumble out of bed at night, warming bottles while Claire dozed off, her head buried in pillows. I didn't mind. Holding him close, feeling his little chest rise and fall against mine, it was everything. I'd sit in the rocking chair by his crib, humming tunes my mom used to sing, watching him drift off. Claire would wake up sometimes, peek in, and smile. "You're good at this," she'd say, and I'd grin like an idiot because it felt true. I wanted to be good for him, for her, for us. I started recording everything. His first giggle, the way he'd grab my finger, his wobbly first steps across the living room. I'd play the videos back on rough days, dreaming about the future, teaching him to ride a bike, kicking a soccer ball in the yard, showing him the stars like my grandpa did with me. Claire loved him too. I know she did. She'd dress him up in these tiny outfits, little suspenders, goofy hats, and snap 100 pictures to send to her friends. But she wasn't like me, where I'd lose hours just sitting with him. She'd get restless. She'd call her mom, Lorraine, to come over and watch him so she could run errands or meet up with Jessa and Tina, her old college buddies. "I need a break," she'd say, tossing her hair back with a laugh. "You're the superhero dad, anyway." I'd nod, tell her it was fine, because I didn't want to fight. Lorraine would show up, all perfume and opinions, cooing over Micah but always slipping in little digs. "Claire needs her freedom," she'd say, like I was chaining her down. I'd just smile and keep quiet, bouncing Micah on my knee. The truth is, I didn't care if Claire leaned on other people. I had Micah. He was gentle, even as a baby, always watching, always curious. He'd reach for my glasses or tug at my beard, and I'd laugh until my sides hurt. Claire would join in sometimes, scooping him up for a quick cuddle before handing him back. "He's all yours," she'd tease, and I'd take him gladly. I built a life around him, working extra shifts at the office to save for his future, fixing up the house so he'd have a safe place to grow. Claire liked the money but not the effort. She'd plan trips we couldn't afford or buy things we didn't need, saying, "Micah deserves the best." I'd agree, even when it stretched us thin, because I wanted him to have everything too. There were good days, though fragile, perfect ones. Like the time we took him to the park, just the three of us. Micah was barely 2, toddling around with this big grin, chasing pigeons while Claire and I sat on a blanket. She leaned against me, her head on my shoulder, and for a minute it felt like college again, like we were a team. "He's got your heart," she said, watching him stumble and giggle. I kissed her forehead, thinking maybe we were okay. But then her phone buzzed, Jessa or Tina, probably, and she pulled away, scrolling through messages while I pushed Micah on the swings. It stung, but I brushed it off. She was still his mom. She still loved him. That's what I told myself. Looking back, I see it now, the distance growing, the way she'd check out when I needed her most. She'd laugh it off, call me Mr. Serious, and I'd let it go because Micah was my anchor. He kept me steady. I'd carry him upstairs after a long day, his head heavy on my shoulder, and feel this quiet joy that nothing could touch. Claire was part of it, sure, but it was Micah who made me whole. I didn't know then how fragile that joy was, how fast it could slip through my fingers. I didn't know that the woman I'd loved since those library days could drift so far, or that the life we built could crack under the weight of what was coming. But in those early years, with my son in my arms and my wife still smiling, I thought we had it all. I thought we were enough. Life with Micah was my center, but as the years rolled on, I started feeling the ground shift beneath us. Claire wasn't the same. Not the way she'd been in those college days when her laugh used to pull me in like a lifeline. She still smiled, still filled the room with her energy, but it was different now, like she was always half somewhere else. I'd come home from work, tired but eager to see her and Micah, and find her on the couch, phone in hand, planning another weekend away with Jessa and Tina. "We're thinking Hawaii this time," she'd say, barely looking up. I'd nod, ask how Micah was, and she'd wave a hand toward the backyard where he was playing with Lorraine. "He's fine. Mom's got him." It didn't feel right, but I let it slide. I always let it slide. Micah was growing fast, for years old now, all skinny legs and big questions. I'd spend hours with him, building towers out of blocks or reading him stories about pirates and dragons. He'd curl up next to me, his head on my chest, and I'd feel this ache of love so strong it almost hurt. Claire would pop in sometimes, ruffle his hair, and say, "You two are peas in a pod," before disappearing to call her friends or scroll through pictures of places she wanted to go. I told myself it was just her way, needing space, needing fun. We were different, that's all. I liked the quiet, the steady routine of work and home and Micah's bedtime hugs. She liked the rush, brunches, shopping sprees, trips that left our bank account gasping. I'd see the credit card bills, sigh, and pay them off, thinking it kept her happy. That's what mattered, right? But then the jokes started. Little ones at first, easy to brush off. We'd be at dinner, just the three of us, and I'd talk about something from work, some boring project I was proud of, and she'd smirk. "Oh, honey, you're so soft," she'd say, her voice light but sharp around the edges. Soft. It didn't sound like a compliment anymore. Micah would giggle, not understanding, and I'd force a laugh too, but it stuck with me. She'd say it in front of Lorraine sometimes, and her mom would jump in, nodding like it was gospel. "You're a good man, but Claire could have aimed higher," Lorraine said once, sipping her wine while I cleared the table. Claire didn't argue, just grinned and changed the subject. I'd stand there, hands full of dishes, feeling the weight of it settle in my gut. I tried to talk to her about it once. It was late, Micah asleep upstairs, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I sat next to her on the couch, where she was flipping through a travel magazine. "Claire," I said, keeping my voice low, "do you still want this? Us?" She looked at me, surprised, then laughed, the short, dismissive sound that hit me like a slap. "What's with you tonight?" "Of course I do. Don't be dramatic." She went back to her magazine, and I sat there, staring at the wall, wondering why it felt like a lie. I wanted to push, to ask why she spent more time with her friends than us, why she rolled her eyes when I talked about saving for Micah's school, but I didn't. I was scared of the answer. Scared she'd say something I couldn't unhear. The distance kept growing. She'd come home from her outings, all bright and loud, dropping shopping bags on the floor while I helped Micah with his homework. "Look what I got," she'd say, pulling out dresses or jewelry, and I'd smile, tell her she looked great, even when I was tallying up the cost in my head. Micah would run over, excited, and she'd hug him quick before shooing him back to me. "Daddy's the fun one," she'd say, and I'd take him, glad to have him close, but wondering why she didn't want to stay. Lorraine was always around too, hovering, whispering to Claire about how she deserved more adventure, more glamour, more than me. I'd overhear bits of it, feel my jaw tighten, but I kept quiet. For Micah, for the life I still believed we had. There were nights I'd lie awake, listening to her breathe next to me, trying to figure out when it changed. Was it after Micah? Before? Had she always been this way, and I'd just been too blind to see it? I'd think about those library days, her laugh, the way she'd made me feel like I was enough. Now, I wasn't so sure, but I held on. I'd get up every morning, make breakfast for Micah, drive him to preschool, and tell myself we were fine. Claire would kiss me goodbye sometimes, quick and distracted, and I'd cling to that like it meant something. I'd watch her leave, off to meet Jessa or Tina, and feel the cracks widen, but I didn't know how to fix them. Not yet. All I knew was Micah, his smile, his trust, and that was enough to keep me going. For now, it had to be. The day everything fell apart started like any other. It was a Thursday, gray and rainy, the kind of weather that makes you want to stay inside with a blanket and a coffee. Micah was 5 now, full of energy, bouncing around the living room while I tried to finish some work emails. Claire was in the kitchen, humming to herself, planning another brunch with Jessa and Tina. I remember looking at her, thinking maybe today could be good. Maybe we'd take Micah to the park later, just the three of us. Then it happened. Micah was mid-laugh, chasing his toy truck across the floor, when his body just stopped. He dropped, his little frame jerking in a way that didn't make sense. My heart froze. "Claire," I yelled, rushing to him, my hands shaking as I tried to hold him steady. His eyes rolled back, his breathing all wrong. Claire ran in, phone slipping from her hand, and for once, she looked scared too. We got him to the hospital fast, too fast, the tires screeching against wet pavement, my voice hoarse from shouting at cars to move. The ER was chaos, nurses barking orders, machines beeping, my mind spinning so hard I couldn't catch a single thought. I held Micah's hand, tiny and cold in mine, whispering, "You're okay, buddy, Daddy's here," even though I didn't know if it was true. Claire stood a few feet away, arms crossed, staring at the floor. The doctor came out after what felt like years, his face tight. "Tests," he said. Something about his brain. "Seizures." We waited, me pacing, Claire texting Lorraine to come. Hours dragged by, each one heavier than the last, until the doctor came back. His words hit like a punch. "I'm so sorry. We did everything we could." Micah was gone. My boy, my sunrise, was gone. I couldn't breathe. The room tilted, my knees buckled, and I grabbed the wall to stay upright. My chest felt like it was caving in, this raw, ripping pain I didn't know how to hold. I looked at Claire, needing her, needing us, to face this together. She was standing by the door, Lorraine's arm around her, her face blank. No tears, no sound, just nothing. Claire, I croaked, reaching for her, but she stepped back, closer to her mom. I need air, she muttered, and they walked out, leaving me there with the echo of the doctor's words and the empty space where Micah should have been. I sank into a chair, staring at the floor, trying to understand how my world had just shattered. The next hours were a fog. I signed papers, answered questions, nodded when people spoke, but none of it felt real. Micah's face kept flashing in my head, his grin, his messy hair, the way he'd say "Dada" when I tucked him in. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I just sat there, numb. Claire came back eventually, Lorraine trailing behind her, and I thought maybe now she'd sit with me, hold my hand, let us mourn together. Instead, she started talking about logistics, funeral plans, who to call, like it was a checklist. Mom's handling the flowers, she said, her voice flat. I stared at her, waiting for something more, something human, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. Lorraine patted her shoulder, murmuring, "You're doing fine, sweetie," and I felt this sick twist in my stomach. Where was my wife? Where was the woman I'd loved? That night, I went home alone. Claire said she was staying at Lorraine's to process, she told me, grabbing a bag and tossing clothes into it like she was packing for a trip. I didn't argue. I couldn't. I walked into our house, the silence screaming at me, Micah's toys still scattered on the floor. I picked up his truck, the one he'd been playing with, and held it so tight my knuckles went white. I wanted Claire there, wanted her to sit with me, cry with me, anything, but she was gone. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of that day. The seizure, the hospital, the doctor's face, Claire's coldness. It didn't make sense. How could she walk away? How could she leave me to carry this alone? By morning, I knew something was broken beyond fixing. I'd lost my son, and in a way, I'd lost her too. The rain kept falling outside, drumming against the windows, and I sat there, holding Micah's truck, feeling the weight of it all crash down. I didn't know what came next, didn't know how to keep going, but I knew one thing. Claire wasn't with me in this. She'd checked out, left me in the wreckage, and I was too lost to see what that meant. Not yet. For now, it was just me, the rain, and the hole where my family used to be. The morning of Micah's funeral hit me like a brick wall. I woke up on the couch, my neck stiff, the house too quiet without his little footsteps running around. The rain had stopped, leaving everything outside damp and gray, matching the hollow ache inside me. I hadn't slept much, just stared at the ceiling all night, clutching that toy truck, trying to make sense of losing him. Claire hadn't come home. She'd texted once, late, saying she was still at Lorraine's, that she'd meet me at the cemetery. I didn't reply. What was there to say? My son was gone. My wife was a stranger, and I was supposed to bury him today. I got up, showered, put on the black suit I'd worn to my mom's funeral years ago. It still fit, but I felt like a different man wearing it now. I was pouring coffee, hands shaky, when my phone buzzed on the counter. I figured it was Leo. He'd been calling, checking in, offering to drive me to the service. But it wasn't a call. It was a voice message, the little icon blinking with Claire's name. My stomach twisted. I didn't want to hear her voice, not after last night, not after she'd left me alone in this. But something made me press play, maybe hope, maybe desperation. I held the phone to my ear, and what I heard ripped whatever was left of me apart. Her voice came through, bright and sharp, like she was laughing at a joke. "Hey, we're heading to New Zealand. Bury your son and cry alone. We don't like to cry. LOL. Then laughter, hers, loud and careless, mixed with Jess's high-pitched cackle and Tina's smug little snort. The message ended with a beep, and I stood there, coffee spilling over my hand, burning my skin. I didn't feel it. I played it again. And again. Each time, that LOL hit like a knife, her laughter echoing in my head, twisting with the memory of Micah's giggle. So different, so pure. New Zealand? She was leaving? On the day we were supposed to say goodbye to our boy? My chest tightened, my breath coming fast and shallow. I dropped the phone, sank to the floor, and pressed my hands to my face, trying to hold it together. But I couldn't. The tears came hard, ugly, choking sobs that shook my whole body. I lost Micah, and now this. Claire wasn't just gone, she was mocking me, mocking him, mocking everything we'd been. And her friends, those vipers she clung to, were right there with her, laughing like it was nothing. I don't know how long I sat there, the coffee pooling on the floor, the phone silent beside me. Part of me wanted to call her back, scream at her, beg her to explain how she could do this. But what would that fix? She'd made her choice. She didn't care. The woman I'd loved, the one I'd built a life with, was gone, replaced by this cold, cruel version I didn't recognize. I thought about Micah, his soft hair, his trusting eyes, and the pain turned into something else. Not just grief. Anger. A deep, quiet rage that settled into my bones. I wiped my face, stood up, and looked at the phone again. That message wasn't just a goodbye, it was a declaration. She thought she could walk away, leave me broken, and laugh about it. She was wrong. I got to the cemetery alone. Leo was there waiting, his face pale, his usual grin nowhere to be seen. "Where's Claire?" he asked, voice low. I didn't answer, just handed him my phone and let him listen. His eyes widened, then narrowed, his jaw clenching tight. I can't even. He didn't finish, just pulled me into a hug, the kind that says more than words ever could. The service was small. Me, Leo, a few neighbors who'd known Micah smile. The priest spoke about peace and heaven, but I barely heard him. I kept seeing Claire's face, hearing that laugh, picturing her boarding a plane while I stood here, laying our son to rest. I put a hand on the tiny coffin, whispered, "I love you, buddy," and felt my knees shake. Leo steadied me, but inside, I was falling apart and building something new at the same time. Driving home, that anger grew roots. I thought about everything I'd given her: years, love, money, a home. All of it, poured into a life she just tossed aside. I pulled into the driveway, went straight to my desk, and opened my laptop. The joint account stared back at me: savings, credit cards, the mortgage I'd been paying off alone for years. Her name was on them, but I'd funded it all. My hands hovered over the keyboard, the voice message replaying in my mind. "Cry alone," she'd said. LOL. I clenched my fists, then started typing. I wasn't crying anymore. I was done. Whatever came next, it wouldn't be her laughing that defined it. It'd be me, standing up, taking back what was mine. She'd see. The day after Micah's funeral, I woke up to a strange kind of silence. No rain, no tears, just this heavy stillness that pressed down on me. I'd barely slept, kept seeing his little face, hearing Claire's voice, that laugh slicing through me over and over. I got out of bed, my body stiff, my mind buzzing with something I couldn't name yet. The house felt empty without him, without her, but it wasn't sadness driving me now. It was purpose. I made coffee, black and strong, and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. That voice message was still on my phone, a grenade waiting to go off, but I didn't play it again. I didn't need to. It was burned into me, every word, every giggle. She'd flown off to New Zealand, thinking she'd left me behind to drown. She didn't know I was about to pull the plug on everything she thought she had. I started with the bank accounts. We'd set them up together years ago: joint savings, checking, a couple of credit cards she loved racking up. I'd been the one working overtime, paying the bills, keeping us afloat while she spent like it grew on trees. I logged in, my fingers steady now, and saw the balances. Thousands I'd earned, sitting there for her trips and her brunches. I opened a new account in my name only, something I'd never thought to do before, and transferred every cent I could. The joint savings? Empty. Checking? Down to zero. I called the bank, told them I wanted access frozen. My name was primary, my income the backbone, so they didn't argue. Claire's cards wouldn't work anymore. Not a single swipe. Next, I hit the mortgage. The house was ours on paper, but I'd covered every payment since we moved in. She'd signed up for the dream, not the work. I logged into the loan portal, suspended the automatic payments, and let it sit. The cars were trickier. Hers was in her name, but I'd paid it off, same as mine. I called the finance company, explained I wasn't covering her lease anymore, and let them figure out the rest. Her shiny little SUV? They'd come for it soon enough. My phone started buzzing, then Claire's number flashing across the screen. I didn't pick up. It buzzed again, then again, a third time. I turned it to silent and kept going. By evening, I'd locked it all down. The travel fund she dipped into for her getaways? Gone, moved to my new account. The apartment she and her mom kept as a backup in the city? I'd been the one co-signing the lease, so I emailed the landlord, pulled my name off, and stopped the rent payments I'd been quietly covering. My phone lit up nonstop now, texts, calls, voicemails piling up. I didn't check them. I didn't need to hear her voice again, begging or yelling or laughing. I could picture it anyway, her in some fancy hotel, Jessa and Tina giggling beside her, realizing their cards weren't working, their plans falling apart. 315 missed calls by nightfall. I poured a glass of whiskey, sat on the couch, and let the number climb. Leo came over around 8, knocking loud enough to shake me out of my haze. I let him in, handed him a beer, and he just stared at me. "You okay, man?" he asked, his voice careful. I shrugged, told him what I'd done, froze her out, cut the strings. His eyes widened. Then he grinned, slow and sharp. "Good," he said. "She doesn't deserve a damn thing from you." We sat there, not saying much, the TV flickering in the background. My phone kept buzzing on the table, Claire's name a constant flicker. Leo glanced at it, shook his head. "She's losing it, huh?" I nodded. "Let her." I didn't feel good, exactly. Not happy, not victorious. Micah was still gone, that hole in my chest still raw. But this was control. For years, I'd bent over backwards, paid for her life, let her take and take while I held everything together. Now I was taking it back. Every call she made, every text she sent, was proof she'd underestimated me. She thought I'd just sit here, crying, while she danced off with her friends. She didn't know me at all. I sipped my whiskey, the burn steadying me, and thought about the next steps. This wasn't over, not yet. She'd built her world on my shoulders, and I was done carrying it. Let her fall. When Leo left, I checked the phone one last time. The calls had stopped, but the text stretched on, angry at first, then desperate. "What did you do? Pick up. We need to talk." I didn't reply. I locked the door, turned off the lights, and lay on the couch, the whiskey glass empty beside me. The silence was mine now, not hers, not theirs. I closed my eyes, Micah's face drifting into my mind, and made a quiet promise. I'd keep going for him. Claire could scream all she wanted. I was done listening. The days after I locked everything down felt like a slow unraveling. Not mine, but theirs. I woke up to sunlight streaming through the blinds, the house still too quiet without Micah, but there was a steadiness in me now. I'd cut the ropes tying me to Claire's chaos, and I could feel it shifting, the weight sliding off my shoulders onto hers. My phone had stopped buzzing overnight. Maybe she'd given up, maybe she was plotting, but I didn't care. I made coffee, sat at the table, and waited. I knew it wouldn't take long for the dominoes to fall. She'd built her life on what I gave her, and without it, she'd crumble. I wasn't wrong. First came Jessa. I got a call from the landlord of her fancy downtown apartment, the one I'd co-signed because Claire begged me to help her friend out. Payment didn't go through, the guy said, his voice gruff. "She's got a week to figure it out, or she's gone." I told him I wasn't covering it anymore, that my name was off the lease. He grumbled, hung up, and I pictured Jessa, smug, loud Jessa, scrambling to pack her designer bags, her laugh from that voice message turning into something panicked. Good. She'd laughed at my son's funeral. Let her sweat. Tina was next. Her car, this sleek little thing she'd bragged about on every trip, got repossessed that afternoon. I'd paid it off last year, another favor for Claire's crew, but the new lease was in my name, and I called the company to cancel it. A tow truck rolled up to wherever she was, probably some overpriced cafe, and hauled it away. I didn't see it happen, but Leo texted me later. Heard Tina's freaking out. No wheels, no cash. Beautiful. I didn't smile, but I felt it. A cold, quiet satisfaction. She'd been there, giggling in the background, while Claire mocked me. Now she could walk. Claire's business account was the big one. She'd started this little online boutique a couple years back. Clothes, jewelry, stuff she said was her passion. I'd funded it, set up the accounts, paid the fees, all while she posed for pictures and called it work. I logged in that morning, saw the balance, money I'd put there, and froze it. No withdrawals, no transfers, just a big fat lock. Her suppliers wouldn't get paid, her orders wouldn't ship. I could imagine her face, that smug grin fading as her phone lit up with angry emails. She'd built her empire on my dime, and I'd just pulled the foundation out from under her. Lorraine tried to get involved, of course. She called my office, not my cell, leaving a voicemail I got later that day. Her voice was all tears and indignation. "This is unjust. You can't do this to my daughter. She's suffering too." Suffering? In New Zealand, laughing over cocktails? I didn't call back. I didn't know her a damn thing. She'd enabled Claire every step of the way, whispering in her ear, turning her against me. Let her cry. I transferred what was left of our joint funds into my new account, the one I'd tied to Micah's name before. It wasn't much, but it felt right. A quiet memorial, something she couldn't touch. By evening, the cracks were showing everywhere. Leo stopped by again, bringing takeout I barely touched. Words getting around, he said, cracking open a soda. Jess is couch surfing. Tina's whining online about bad luck. Claire's radio silent, probably too busy yelling at her bank. He leaned back, watching me. You sure about this? I nodded. They don't get to keep what I built. Not after that message. He didn't push, just sat with me while the TV droned in the background. My phone stayed quiet now. No more calls, no texts. Maybe they'd figured out I wasn't answering. Maybe they were scrambling. Either way, I didn't care. I kept moving forward. Canceled the utilities on the city apartment. Power, water, internet. All in my name, all paid by me. I called the credit card companies, reported hers as lost, shut them down. Every step was deliberate, like crossing off a list. I wasn't angry anymore, not the hot, burning kind. This was colder, sharper, a need to reclaim what was mine. Claire had taken enough. My time, my trust, my son's memory, and I wasn't giving her anything else. Her world, her friend's world, it was all collapsing, and I was the one holding the hammer. When night fell, I stood in Micah's room, looking at his toys, his drawings pinned to the wall. The pain was still there, heavy and real, but I felt something else too. Strength, maybe. I'd buried him alone, carried that grief alone, and now I was standing up alone. Claire thought she'd won, flying off with her crew, laughing at me. She didn't see this coming. None of them did. I turned off the light, closed the door, and went to bed. Tomorrow, they'd feel it more. And I'd keep going, one step at a time, until there was nothing left of what they'd taken. The fallout came faster than I expected. A week after I locked everything down, the whispers started turning into noise, loud, messy noise that Claire couldn't dodge. I'd been keeping my head down, staying quiet, sorting through the wreckage of my life one piece at a time. But the world doesn't stay quiet for long, not when someone like her starts slipping. I was at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, when Leo called. You need to see this, he said, his voice tight with something like excitement. Check your email. I opened my laptop, and there it was, a link to a local parenting blog, one Claire used to follow for her boutique promo. The headline hit me square in the chest, Grieving Mom or Heartless Fraud. The truth behind Claire's getaway. Below it, that voice message, the one I'd played 100 times, was embedded, her laugh ringing out for everyone to hear. I sat there, staring at the screen, my hands gripping the mug so hard I thought it'd crack. Leo had done it. I'd played him the message after the funeral, handed him my phone in that raw moment, and he'd held on to it. I leaked it, he admitted over the phone. Send it to a friend who knows the blog guy. People need to know, man. She doesn't get to play victim after that. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to stop it, keep it private, but another part, the colder part, agreed. She'd mocked me, mocked Micah, mocked everything we'd lost. Let her face it. I clicked play, listened to her voice again, bury your son and cry alone. LOL, and felt the anger flare up fresh. The comments below were brutal, disgusting. What kind of mother does this? She's trash. I closed the laptop, my heart pounding. It was out there now. No going back. The backlash spread like wildfire. By noon, it was on social media, people I didn't even know sharing the clip, tagging her boutique, calling her out. Brands she'd worked with, the ones that sent her free clothes for posts, started dropping her fast. I saw the emails later, screenshots Leo forwarded from a mutual friend. We're terminating our partnership, effective immediately, one read. Another, your actions don't align with our values. Her online shop page went dark, orders canceled, customers demanding refunds she couldn't give. I didn't feel sorry for her. She built that image, perfect mom, trendy businesswoman, on lies, on my money, and now it was crashing down. Good. Her friends caught it too. Jessa posted some whiny rant about toxic people ruining her life, but the replies tore her apart. You laughed at a kid's funeral. Sit down, one said. Tina tried playing dumb, claiming she didn't know the full story, but nobody bought it. Their little trio, always so loud, so untouchable, was shrinking by the hour. Lorraine called my office again, left another voicemail, this time screaming, "You're ruining her life." How dare you? I deleted it without a second thought. She'd raised Claire to think she could take and never pay. They were wrong. I stayed out of it, mostly. Didn't comment, didn't post, just watched it unfold from the sidelines. People I hadn't talked to in years reached out, old coworkers, college buddies, asking if it was true, saying they couldn't believe it. I kept my answers short. Yeah, it's her. I'm handling it. Leo was my filter, fielding the nosier ones, keeping me updated. Her lawyer bailed, he told me one night, dropping by with pizza. Said she's too much of a liability now. I nodded, chewing slowly. Even the law didn't want her mess. That felt right. The real blow came when the local news picked it up. A small station, but big enough, ran a segment about the mother who laughed, with blurry pics of Claire from her socials, that voice message playing over and over. They didn't name me, just called me the grieving father left behind. I hated hearing it, hated being part of the story, but it wasn't about me anymore. It was about her, her choices, her words, her collapse. The cemetery got calls too. People leaving flowers for Micah, strangers who'd heard and felt something. I didn't go see them. Couldn't yet. But knowing he wasn't forgotten, that hit me deep. By the end of the week, Claire's perfect little world was ash. Her followers dropped by thousands, her boutique was dead, her friends scattered. I saw a picture online, her in New Zealand, looking tired, no smile, no Jessa or Tina in sight. She tried posting once, some vague apology about misunderstandings, but it drowned in hate. I didn't feel joy watching it. Didn't feel much at all, really, just a quiet nod to myself. She laughed at my pain, at Micah's memory, and now the world saw her for what she was. I'd taken her money, her toys, and now her mask was gone too. That was enough. For now, I'd let the pieces settle, let her sit in the mess she'd made. I had my own road ahead, and it didn't include her. After the storm broke, I couldn't stay in that house anymore. Every corner held Micah, his toys in the living room, his drawings on the fridge, the echo of his laugh in the halls. It wasn't just losing him, it was Claire too, her betrayal staining every memory we'd made there. I needed out, needed air, needed something new. So I packed a bag, sold what I could, and left. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not even Leo at first. I found a small cabin by a lake, a place Micah and I had visited once when he was 3. We'd skipped rocks, eaten peanut butter sandwiches, watched the sun dip below the water. It was quiet there, simple, and that's what I wanted. I signed the lease, moved in with a few boxes, and let the silence wrap around me. The first days were hard. I'd wake up to birds chirping, the lake lapping against the shore, and feel this ache so deep I couldn't move. I'd sit on the porch, staring at the water, thinking about Micah, his little hands throwing stones, his voice asking why they sank. I hung his drawings by the fireplace, the ones he'd scribbled with crayons, all bright colors and messy lines. They were all I'd brought of him, that and his toy truck, which sat on the mantel like a guard. I'd talk to him sometimes, out loud, when the sun set and the cabin got dark. Hey, buddy, I'd say, my voice rough. Miss you today. Hope you're okay up there. It hurt, but it kept him close. I needed that. The cabin was small, one room, a tiny kitchen, a bed by the window, but it was enough. I didn't need much anymore. I'd make coffee, sit outside, and watch the world go slow. No phone buzzing, no emails, just me and the trees and the water. A neighbor, Sophie, lived a few cabins down. She was older, quiet, with gray hair and kind eyes. She'd leave bread on my porch sometimes, fresh, warm, wrapped in a towel, no note, just there. I'd nod at her when I saw her walking her dog, and she'd nod back. We didn't talk much, but it was nice, that little thread of human connection. I wasn't ready for more than that. I started rebuilding, bit by bit. Not the house me. I'd walk the lake trail every morning, the crunch of gravel under my boots grounding me. I'd breathe deep, let the crisp air fill my lungs, and try to sort through the mess in my head. Micah was gone, Claire was gone, and I was here, still standing. The grief didn't leave, it sat heavy, like a stone in my chest, but it changed. It wasn't sharp anymore, not cutting me open every second. It was quieter, a steady ache I could carry. I'd sit by the water after my walks, skip rocks like he used to, and feel him with me. Not in a big way, just a whisper, a warmth. It was enough to keep going. Leo came up once, after I'd been there a month. He drove the winding road to the cabin, showed up with a six-pack and a grin. Nice hideout, he said, looking around. We sat on the porch, drank, talked about nothing, old college stories, dumb stuff we'd done as kids. He didn't bring up Claire, didn't ask about the news or the fallout. I was grateful for that. Before he left, he clapped me on the shoulder. You're doing all right, man. I can see it. I shrugged, but maybe he was right. I wasn't whole, not yet, but I was finding pieces, putting them together slow. Sophie started talking to me more after that. She'd stop by with bread or jam, tell me about the lake, how it froze in winter, how the fish bit best at dawn. One day, she asked about the drawings by the fireplace. I told her about Micah, my voice steady but low. She listened, nodded, didn't push. "He sounds like a good kid," she said, and left it there. It was the first time I talked about him without breaking, and it felt like a step. I started fishing with her sometimes, early mornings when the mist hung over the water. She'd point out the best spots, and I'd cast the line, waiting for a tug. We didn't catch much, but it wasn't about that. It was the quiet, the rhythm, the way it let my mind rest. Nights were still the hardest. I'd lie in bed, the lake whispering outside, and think about what I'd lost. But I'd think about what I'd gained too: peace, control, a space that was mine. Claire's world had collapsed, and I'd walked away. I didn't check the news anymore, didn't care what she was doing. She wasn't here, wasn't part of this. I'd light a fire, watch Micah's drawings glow in the flicker, and feel something like healing. Not fixed, not over, but moving. I was moving. One day at a time, by the water, I was finding my way back. The cabin became my world, a steady rhythm of days by the lake that kept me grounded. Months had passed since I'd moved there, spring turning to summer, the air warm now, the water shimmering under a big, open sky. I'd settled into a quiet life, one I could hold on to. Mornings were for walking the trail, afternoons for fishing with Sophie or fixing up the porch, nights for sitting by the fire with Micah's drawings keeping me company. The grief was still there, a shadow that never left, but it was softer now, part of me instead of all of me. Claire hadn't crossed my mind much, her collapse, her mess, it all felt far away, like a story I'd once lived but didn't anymore. Then, one afternoon, my phone buzzed. I was on the porch, sanding a chair I'd found by the road. When I saw it, a text, her name lighting up the screen. "Please, just talk to me." That's all it said. No anger, no excuses, just those 5 words. I set the sandpaper down, wiped my hands on my jeans, and stared at it. My gut twisted, not with rage like before, but with something emptier. I didn't feel hate, didn't feel much at all. She'd been gone from my life for so long, her laughter, her betrayal, her voice message a distant echo now. I didn't reply, didn't delete it either. Just left it there, a dot on the screen, and went back to sanding. Though it smoothed under my hands, and I focused on that instead. Later, I walked to the lake, the phone heavy in my pocket. I sat by the water, the spot where I'd put a small tree for Micah, a sapling I'd planted in the spring, a plaque at its base, in loving memory of Micah. "You were my sunrise." The words were simple, but they said everything. I pulled the phone out, looked at her message again. "Please, just talk to me." I wondered what she wanted: money, forgiveness, a way back? I didn't care enough to ask. She'd made her choice that day, flying off with her friends, laughing while I buried our son. I'd made mine too, cutting her out, building this peace. Talking wouldn't change that. I started typing, not to send, just to see the words. "Your laughter buried any love I had. I mourned our son alone. I healed without you. You chose mockery. I chose peace." I read it over, my thumb hovering over the send button. It felt true, every bit of it, but sending it meant opening a door, even a crack, and I didn't want that. I deleted it, letter by letter, until the screen was blank again. She didn't need to hear it. I'd said it for myself, and that was enough. I slipped the phone back in my pocket, leaned against the tree, and watched the water ripple. Micah's tree swayed in the breeze, growing slow but strong, like me. Sophie came by that evening, a loaf of bread in her hands. "You look thoughtful," she said, setting it on the table. I shrugged, told her about the text, kept it short. She nodded, her eyes soft. "You don't owe her anything," she said, and left it there. We sat on the porch, split the bread, watched the sun dip low. She didn't push, didn't pry, just stayed with me in the quiet. I liked that about her, how she let me be. After she left, I went inside, lit the fire, and looked at Micah's drawings. His messy lines, his bright colors, they held me together when nothing else could. Claire's text didn't matter. She didn't matter. The next day, I walked to the tree again. It was becoming a habit, checking on it, talking to Micah in my head. "Hey, buddy," I said, my voice low. She texted me. Didn't answer. Don't think I need to. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves, and I smiled a little. It felt like he was listening. I sat there a while, the lake stretching out in front of me, and thought about the future. Not hers, mine. I keep fixing the cabin, fishing with Sophie, maybe plant more trees. A life built on truth, on loss, on the strength I'd found in letting go. When I got back, I blocked her number. No hesitation, no second thoughts. The phone went dark, and I felt lighter. I didn't need her words, her pleas, her anything. I stepped outside, stood by the water, and looked at the horizon. Micah's tree stood tall behind me, a quiet promise. I turned, walked toward the cabin, toward the life I'd made, the peace I'd earned. She was the past. This was now. And I was done looking back.